Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty, dirty player. Can continue to survive these things. Here you see Sophie Cunningham laid out on the floor, holding her knee. The lady was in tears, crying as Lexi Hall approached her to help her.
Immediately, first, look at this. Instantly into the game. Instantly. Immediately. They had a target to hurt Sophie. She was targeted by this team.
Breaking news straight from the WNBA elite. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham just dropped a bombshell that has the entire league reeling. Sophie went down with a brutal knee injury, a devastating blow after Bria Hartley crashed into her. Sources close to the situation reveal Sophie's family is absolutely furious. They are calling out Hartley, labeling her a dangerous, reckless player. It's the same nightmare that sidelined Clark, now unfolding for Sophie. Fans are horrified watching this play out.
Right there, and Hartley just kind of falls,
and
and
she crushes in
immediately
on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down.
Just sums up everything. Like, we weren't going to win this game if Sophie Cunningham was healthy. This isn't like, oh, we lost because of a Sophie Cunningham injury. We were down 17 points when she got injured. This happens.
The Indiana Fever are trapped in an actual horror movie of a season. Forget popcorn. You need therapy just to witness these games. Insiders are calling it a season from hell, and frankly, that's being polite. Every single week, this team invents new ways to humiliate themselves. But it gets worse. The WNBA itself just sits back, scrolling social media like a babysitter, while the entire house burns to the ground. There's no accountability.
And it looked like Stephanie White is extremely emotional after this hard-fought game. Sophie Cunningham family is extremely...
And now, we've hit the absolute lowest of the lows. Sophie Cunningham's knee just got destroyed in broad daylight. This wasn't basketball. This was a demolition derby. This wasn't some minor ankle tweak or a bruise. This was Sophie, screaming on the floor, clutching her leg. Bria Hartley plowed into her knee like a linebacker trying to sack a quarterback. The scene was raw. It was emotional. And it was preventable.
I'm hella mad. Hartley need to be suspended on a major level completely. Probably at this point, she's more dirty.
Here's the kicker. The Fever were already down 17 points when it happened. 17. They were getting slapped around like a JV team. Then their toughest player, the one actually showing some backbone, gets taken out. This isn't just an injury. This is a punch to the gut. If that doesn't scream season from hell, we don't know what does. It perfectly sums up the absolute chaos.
They wanted to hurt Sophie. They made it their business to hurt Sophie. And that's exactly what they did, was hurt Sophie. And I'm hella mad.
The scene was so horrific, Sophie's family immediately jumped online. They torched the league. Fans flooded social media, dragging the WNBA for letting this circus run without rules. The outrage is immense. People are demanding answers. How can star players drop like flies every week in a professional league, while officials act like they're officiating a YMCA pickup game? Sophie's sister, Lindsay, directly confronted the league. She told them to stop chasing players for comments and start actually protecting their athletes. This is a player advocate crying out.
Sophie's sister, Lindsay, and her mom, Paula. At WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game, protect your athletes.
Sophie's mom, Paula, also chimed in. She blasted Hartley as a player with issues everywhere she goes. When a family gets that vocal, it means they've reached their breaking point. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is still sitting out, sidelined for 13 straight games. Her shadow looms large over this entire disaster. People are literally asking if she should even bother returning this year. Honestly, with the disaster show the Fever are putting on, why would she risk it?
Sophie's mother, Paula. Hartley is a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes. She's playing mean.
Hartley's play was completely out of control. But let's zoom in on Sophie's injury, because that was the spark that lit this entire bonfire. The play looked like something ripped straight out of a blooper reel, except it wasn't funny at all. Hartley drove straight in. She collided directly with Sophie's leg. Sophie immediately grabbed her patella, her kneecap. It was a calculated, devastating blow.
It's a patella injury. Normally, people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury. It looks like she might have either broke or either...
Did she rupture her patella? That's the moment every fan watching got that sinking feeling in their stomach. It didn't scream ACL, but it had the distinct stench of a patella rupture or fracture. Anyone who's watched sports knows that's a one-way ticket to see you next season. Analysts are confirming a close to 0% chance she returns this year. 0. Imagine that. The Fever's best spark of energy, their mid-season engine, erased in seconds.
Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very...
But it gets worse. This wasn't Sophie's first rodeo with injuries this season. No, she suffered not one, but 2 major injuries this year. And here's the kicker. Both of them were against the Connecticut Sun. Both. At some point, that stops being a coincidence. It starts looking like a disturbing pattern. It feels like the basketball gods themselves are pointing at the Fever, declaring, you, yes, you are cursed, and the family outrage makes complete sense. Sophie had been the Fever's best mid-season addition, a crucial lifeline.
Sophie Cunningham out for the year. How can this team continue to survive? We bring in Eric McDonald because of injuries, and who would have thought? Caitlin Clark would be out most of the year. Sophie Cunningham will have a season-ending.
Sophie wasn't just another player in the rotation. She was their defense. She was their intensity. She was the only one hyping up Caitlin Clark when nobody else on the roster would even stand up for her. Now that's all gone, and here's where things really go off the rails. If you thought Sophie's injury was just an unfortunate accident, let's talk about Bria Hartley. She's the WNBA's very own villain of the year. If the league had trading cards, Hartley's would come with a federal warning label.
I told you guys this girl was a dirty player, and that's all she did today was show how dirty she is. This is unfortunate. I don't know how.
Hartley's reputation is so toxic, fans literally predicted this was coming. This isn't a one-off incident, this is a highlight reel of pure chaos. Earlier this year, she notoriously yanked Angel Reese by her ponytail like it was WWE SmackDown. Just days before Sophie went down, Hartley pulled Becca Allen by the head, slamming her to the floor. Multiple ejections, countless cheap shots. It's like she's actively building a resume for the Dirtiest Player Alive award. This is her pattern.
She is a dirty player. She pulled Angel Reese out of air by her ponytail. Angel Reese is ready to fight. Just last game.
Critics aren't just throwing shade. They're flat out screaming that Hartley targets players. They claim she goes out of her way to end careers. After what just happened to Sophie, can anyone honestly say they're wrong? This player's reputation is dirtier than a gas station bathroom floor. And then Sophie Cunningham's knee explodes after direct contact. How many coincidences do we need before we call it what it is? League insiders have already labeled her the dirtiest player alive, putting her right alongside DeJoni Carrington. Fans are convinced Sophie was targeted. Her family? They're not dancing around it. They straight up told us Hartley plays completely out of control.
I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's her Achilles, the way she was kind of dragging her foot. I don't know. But Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season. But you got to know who we're talking about.
Now, let's pause and ask the obvious question. Where the hell is the WNBA in all this? Where are the suspensions? Where is the accountability? When your league is losing stars left and right, the absolute one thing you need to do is protect the ones still standing. Instead, we have a situation where people are actually calling for a civil rights investigation into officiating culture. A civil rights investigation in a basketball league. That's how ridiculous this has gotten. Fans aren't just mad, they're disgusted. They see a league where dangerous plays are shrugged off, where dirty players run wild, and where officials couldn't control a church league game if their lives depended on it.
Reality, because she is somebody's daughter, she is somebody's sister, and this is just unfortunate. And those of you who don't think a civil rights investigation need to be brought upon this league is tripping. This civil rights
This is what makes Sophie's injury so much bigger than just another player going down. It's not just about her. It's about the fact that the WNBA has actively created an environment where this was inevitable. A player with Hartley's rap sheet keeps playing week after week with no real punishment. Sophie Cunningham, the one person willing to scrap for Caitlin Clark and bring intensity to the Fever, ends up crying on the hardwood while the refs stare into space. And all this exploded while the Fever were already trailing by 17 points, proving once again this team is allergic to playing good basketball.
Do you think the refs called any fouls? No, they didn't. These refs are clowns.
These referees are clowns. The box scores might show some solid numbers, but they were nowhere near dominant. When your team is a dumpster fire, solid just doesn't cut it. Natasha Howard chipped in with 18 points and 9 rebounds, but that's not enough. And then there was Lexi Hull, who hit one big dagger 3 and grabbed a clutch rebound late. That sounds nice, until you remember the other 90% of the game where she was completely invisible offensively. The box score looks decent, but the game told the raw truth. It was Mitchell or bust.
Lexi Hull hit a big 3 that was the dagger at the end. Aaliyah Boston, 7 of 13, 14 points, 13 boards, a double-double there, added 5 assists.
The final score, 99-93 in overtime, tells you everything you need to know. Yes, it goes in the win column, but does anyone actually feel like they won? The Fever barely scraped past one of the weakest teams in the league. They needed extra time to do it, and they lost Sophie Cunningham in the process. That's not a victory. That's a bargain where the receipt comes with a warning label. The team may have survived the night, but it feels like something much bigger died out there on the court.
In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged, hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor, 75 feet away from the rim.
And while everyone was cheering for Mitchell, the real shadow hanging over this entire mess is Caitlin Clark. The so-called savior of the league has played only 12 or 13 games all season. That means she's missed over 75% of the year. Think about that. The WNBA's most hyped rookie ever. The face plastered on every billboard. The player networks can't stop drooling over. Yet she has barely been on the court. Head coach Stephanie White tries to sound optimistic, hinting at a return before the season ends. But at this point, who even believes that? The question isn't whether she can come back. It's whether she should.
Your league is hurt now. Who would have thought? How do the Indiana Fever? Bria Hartley, you are a dirty, low.
And let's not forget the lawsuits. Caitlin Clark already has legal action tied to her name. Now, there's serious talk of Sophie Cunningham joining that party. When players and their families are this openly furious, when the league is constantly under fire for safety and officiating, you know something is truly rotten. People are even accusing Commissioner Kathy Engelbert of letting rugby and UFC sneak into women's basketball. And honestly, they're not wrong. Because when half the league's stars are injured and nobody's being protected, this doesn't look like basketball anymore. It looks like a demolition derby with sneakers.
Wonder why there's so many goddamn injuries all over the league, because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game.
Fans are losing faith. Playoff hopes are fading. Trust in this league is on life support. You can only ignore the obvious for so long before it bites you in the face. Sophie is gone. Caitlin has barely played. The Fever are completely falling apart. The WNBA is sitting at the edge of a cliff. The only question now is whether Caitlin Clark decides to risk herself for this absolute train wreck, or if she stays on the sidelines and lets the league deal with the wreckage it created. The Fever season is hanging by a thread, and the WNBA can't hide from this chaos any longer.